So just a quick introduction of Half the Sky. We are a leading career platform that focuses on connecting female job seekers with equal opportunity employers. So we offer a women's career network, skills training at companies that care, a growing list of career opportunities, and also some expert career advice to help you make that leap in your career. As an advocate for diversity in the workplace, our mission is to level the playing field for women at work and to help companies build a diverse and robust workforce. All of this to help empower and inspire more women to achieve their career aspirations. So please check our platform out. You can do so at www.halftheskyasia.com. Following the event, I'll put the QR codes up for our socials so you can follow us there. And now, please allow me to introduce our incredible speaker for today. She is Karen Kwong. So Karen is a highly experienced executive and business psychology coach and trainer. She was head of trading at a large UK fund manager for about 15 years before retraining to focus on one of the biggest assets of every organization, which are its people. Her clients come from many, many industry and sizes. She has FTSE 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies, as well as SMEs and their boards. And Karen is also a top 5 idea winner of the CDC Foundation Empowered Health Cancer-Free Challenge. She has been invited to speak at events hosted by industry associations, many in-house programs, as well as running workshops for business leaders on high performance and high-stake environments. She has also spoken on resilience, topics such as stress management, personal and professional achievement, or sustainable and future growth, and has been interviewed and featured by several media outlets, including NBC Universal, AP, and the Evening Standard. And another interesting thing to note about Karen, she has recently co-funded a mental health and well-being offering called Corporate Wellness Partnership. So without further ado, welcome, Karen. I will now pass the floor to you.
New year, better you. As Bianca mentioned, I used to work in financial services. And the reason why I mentioned that, not financial services bit, but in industry, is because much of the things that I'll be talking about actually has led me to my current career to help other people work out where they want to go with their careers, etc. When I was in financial services, I had a very nice role. I had, a leadership role, but there were so many moments when I sort of slightly felt that I wasn't in charge of my own career, or that other people were sort of guiding it, and I sort of went with the flow and not necessarily always feeling like I had much control. And it was only yesterday that I was doing yet another sort of leadership training course when someone said, where do you have influence in your life? And at this stage, I'm going to ask you to write in your journals nearby, where do you have influence in your life? Just take a couple of seconds to write down, where do you think you have influence in your life? So yesterday, when we went through this group question, lots of people said, well, I'm a parent, so I guess I have influence. Some of them said, actually, I'm a child. Weirdly enough, I now have influence with my parents, with my team, etc., etc. But no one answered, I have influence with myself. And then we sort of were saying, okay, well, what does that mean? In actual fact, the more we talked about it, the more actually we came to the conclusion that actually the question should be, where don't you have influence? Which in short is basically saying, no matter how much you think you don't have influence or little choice, you actually do have influence and choice. And so today, a lot of the work we're going to be doing is around knowing that you do have influence, even if you feel that you don't, or that you think that you don't. We cannot not have influence. And this was something that I didn't realize when I was working in a job, partly because I was so busy doing what I was doing. I was working, my hours were from 6 till about 10 a.m., 6 in the morning till 10 p.m. every night. So, it was really, really hard to find the space and time. And that was a major factor as well. And the fact that I didn't have much to, ability to do much with my career because I wasn't able to take a step back. And when we talk about new year, better you, we look at it from a sort of perspective of January as about new beginnings. And to be honest, this one is no different. But with matters of your career, there is no perfect moment. Don't wait for January or for tomorrow to start. Your career is always in your hands. And this is what today's session is about. So here I have a case study. What's the difference between the two? They have a similar age, similar profile, education, upbringing. They have kids, but the lady on the left has quite a lot of home pressures from her parents and her husband. Both her parents and her husband think that she, because she is the female, should be more at home, that her job, yes, it's great, she has a job and she's contributing income-wise. She should be basically more present at home. And if she had sort of time pressures, she should always choose looking after her children and her husband and her parents first over her career. Now, there's no judgment there, but that's basically what was happening. And essentially, the lady on the left was also the sort of person who pretty much was like, let me wait for my boss to decide my future. Her career was left in the hands of her boss, who basically said, right, next role will be this, you'll be doing these projects, and this is how it works. And she just passively said yes. And because she was a perfectionist, she wanted to get things perfect, wanted to get things right. And she also desperately wanted to be liked. She didn't want to upset anyone. She didn't want to push back, even if she knew something was wrong. She would not speak up unless she was spoken to. But then increasingly, she started getting a little bit snippy and a little bit angry when people were asking her for things when she thought they should do it themselves or that they were wrong. But she would never really speak up. She would just make sarcastic comments. And after a while, she became extremely passive aggressive. Some of her colleagues would say she was two-faced because, for example, one time they all said, you know, we need more resources for this team. She said, yes, I absolutely agree. But when we went into the meeting, her boss, whom she knew didn't want more resources, she turned around and said, no, I think we're fine with the numbers that we are. Because she was so keen on people pleasing that she just said whatever needed to be heard by the most senior person in the room. When she came to me, it was actually mainly because her boss said she had an attitude problem. So we went through sort of 360 where I canvassed quite a few of her teammates and we got some feedback. And she was expecting the feedback to be, she's a lovely lady, etc. And we got all of those things. But on the areas of development, her feedback was she was untrustworthy, that people had to tell her what to do because they were always spoon feeding her. They said, great, she's reliable, but we don't know if she's not very intelligent or not, because we're always having to give her things to do and spoon feed her. And basically, she never made any decisions. So people thought she was lazy. Her reasoning for not making any decisions was because she just didn't want to upset anybody. And she thought that she used the excuse of, I like learning, so I want to learn what other people have to say, as opposed to taking charge of her own sort of decisions, having a viewpoint. And all of this just came out as bitterness and resentment. And as we started working together, all of this started coming out. And we realized that actually she felt really, really trapped. And she felt that she had no influence in her life and no control. And at home, like I said, her parents and her husband thought that she really, really, kind of should be more at home, even though they needed her income at work. So she just felt she was being used by her family as well. Now, looking at the case studies, the person on the right essentially achieved a promotion within 18 months. And she had a very strong growth mindset, which meant that she thought about things in an open-minded way. She thought about every situation as being a learning opportunity, including challenging people, learning how to challenge people, learning how to ask questions. And essentially, the key thing about that was she had to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, challenging herself, challenging other people. She upskilled, she looked for a mentor, she networked, She kept learning and she kept retraining, and she had a very clear strategy for where she wanted to go from where she currently was. She nurtured her bosses. What does that mean? She made sure that she kept in touch with the bosses, made an active effort to ask for meetings and to discuss things that were important to her. She also made an active effort to understand what her bosses actually needed from a bigger picture perspective. And she was strategic. We looked at her strengths, and her strengths were strategy, idea generation, and building relationships. And guess what? I know these pictures, you're going to laugh at me, but these pictures make it sound like these are two different women. They're not. They're exactly the same person. But after this woman realized that she had influence and had control of her own career, she realized that she needed to change, to stop being resentful, and to realize that she could decide what happens in her future. She became that person on the right, and within 18 months got a promotion and is on track for another promotion now. And what was interesting about her was she, in all this time, did not know that one of her strengths was strategy. And it was about idea generation, because she kept everything to herself. She didn't know this about herself. But once she started using these strengths, these propelled her forward. But she was strategic, and she also worked out that actually she had power over her career. And none of these things were practiced before. But she also went home and had conversations with her family. She said, I can't do this without your support. And it caused a lot of discomfort, probably about 6 months worth of discomfort, where she says, these are the things that I want. Yes, I love my family. Yes, you are a priority, but also so is my career. So is what I want. And when she put some healthy boundaries around herself and her home life, and basically said, this is what I want, she started earning respect, both from her family, her husband, who didn't realize she had it in her at all, and as well as her colleagues. Like I said, those 6 months were really, really difficult for her, because, she kept saying, oh, it's just so much easier to not upset anybody. But the whole point is she wasn't being herself, and that really made such a difference. So that is one case study that is extremely real. And this could be you. And to a certain extent, that was what was happening for me when I was in my career. I work with a lot of people, many of whom are women who want to advance their careers. And they often feel like they're being held back. They work really, really hard, and they assume that basically if they work hard, then they're going to succeed. And that working hard is a major factor, but there are so many other factors as well. And here we're going to talk about some of them. So why should you invest in your own professional development? Because at the end of the day, some companies don't believe in it, so therefore they won't invest in you. Some of them are so focused on current success that they don't believe in development. They believe that everything is about the now, and if you want to develop, then you can go and develop yourself. But quite frankly, this is what we need for now. Typically, those companies, even if they're currently successful, don't tend to be worried about future-proofing their businesses. And as a consequence, companies like Kodak, Nokia, Yahoo, etc., they failed after a while because they forgot to develop themselves as a company and their staff for the future. And they become obsolete and irrelevant. And this can happen with individuals too. So this is about actually adopting a growth mindset and thinking, how can I think about my future going forward? Don't expect your company to do it for you, because some of them, and I'm sure some of you can relate, won't invest in you because they just don't believe in it. Some other companies do want to have development, etc., but they don't have the resources, like they can't afford it, or they don't want to afford it at the moment, or they might choose the wrong options for you. For example, they choose a course that doesn't suit the culture of your company. They might choose a course that's not suitable for you and the skills that you need to develop. But again, it's from a very top-down approach. But what your needs are may not be the same as your colleagues, even though you're in the same department. for example, because you have different strengths. Sometimes it's because your manager doesn't believe in you and your abilities, not because you don't have leadership. And leadership, incidentally, isn't just a title. You as a person have personal leadership as well. But sometimes your managers just goes, right, the person sitting next to you is way more talented, because they relate more to that person, not because that person necessarily is more talented. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But the whole point is you get to decide your career. It's not a comparison thing with the person next to you. So quite often, if that person next to you is perceived as more talented, they will be on one of those high performance, fast tracking for leadership things, and you get left aside. And as they get sort of all that training, you get left behind. Now, you can sit there in resentment, or you can do something about it. I recently went on did a project for a really large healthcare company. And we did a project based on future leaders, like what does a future leader look like and what are the things that you require? And much of the feedback was around the fact that actually they think that leadership training should be for everyone, not just those on fast track. Because actually we can all learn these skills for ourselves, but also for better communications, etc. And what we don't want is to widen the gap between people, because sometimes if people had a little bit of training or a little bit of coaching or a little bit of mentoring or all of those three together, what you might find is you accelerate people who are normally quiet, who are not seen. But obviously that's a very expensive thing for companies, so they don't want to do that. But if you think about it, if your manager doesn't believe in you and your abilities, or they think that they do, but they prefer the person next to you, then you have to look after your own destiny, because they're not going to look after you. For some people, it's because your organization's goals are not the same as for your career. For example, I recently had started with a new client who said he does sales. He's never enjoyed sales, but he's been extremely successful at it. And he says, all I want to do is research. I want to do really geeky things and learning and stuff like that and putting together data. But he has the most people-facing job in the whole company. And he goes, I don't know how I got here, because I'm extremely successful, but I'm also extremely unhappy. And he came to me because he said, I'm so unhappy, I don't know what to do. Your organization's goals and yours are not aligned. And he was told, but the thing is, you are so important, we can't have you leave. So we can't give you room to grow in a different department, which is extremely flattering, but it doesn't help his happiness. Where are you in charge of your career? I had another client who was a corporate lawyer. She had a huge job working for one of the largest law firms, and her specialty was in tech and sort of patents. And her goal was to become a partner. But she goes to me, Karen, I just feel really, really unhappy. I don't know what's going on. I'm arguing with my family, all sorts of things. And the reality was she was deeply, deeply unhappy. But when we started exploring, I said to her, why do you want to become a partner in your firm? She goes, well, because that's what everybody wants. I said, no, but why do you want it? She goes, well, because, it makes me feel important, etc. I said, okay, aside from that, what do you want? She goes, actually, I really want to go into family law. So I said, is partnership important? She goes, yeah, it's important if I got it. But quite frankly, I really want to go into family law. It took her a whole year to get to it, but she finally retrained to go into family law. And funnily enough, she became a partner within 2 years, and she was much, much happier. So the question is, for her situation was, she had this ambition to be a partner because that's just what everybody does, number one. Number two is, this is something she decided when she was 22. But now that she was in her mid-40s, she was like, it's probably not relevant anymore. But guess what? Sometimes we stick with these objectives that we've had since we were 22, and they're not relevant anymore. So again, The work we had to do was, is your objective still relevant? But then why would you invest in your own professional development? Because with all those cases I gave you, each and every one has better job and life satisfaction because they focused on their own growth. It's not selfish. Their confidence increased, which by definition meant they could do more. It gave them more opportunities for promotion, and therefore they had more choices. So actually, it's not just about spending money, if some of you are worried that you can't afford it, but this is much more about investing in you, time and effort, and being strategic about it. So I've given you lots of case studies because I think it's really, really important to sort of see which do you relate to and why at each stage the solution is you need to take charge of it, whatever that looks like. So how do we nurture your career? Well, the first thing, as I say, with everything that we do, whether it's on well-being or whether it's on your career or whether it's on getting a promotion or being a better leader or whatever it is when I coach people, is know yourself very well. What is your purpose? Why? What is your why? Why are you here? Work on your strengths, your areas for development, what motivates you, and what are your triggers? So, for example, with the lady who wanted to become a partner, she didn't realize what her purpose was until she thought about it. And as soon as she knew, she was more motivated. She focused on the areas that she needed to develop so that she could move forward. With the first case study, for example, we worked on basically her purpose, what her motivation was. And we also worked on her strengths. And we worked out that she really, really needed to develop her own self-confidence. And when we looked at her strengths, how do you unleash what we call your superpowers? Because those are special to you. We focused on the things that she needed to use more of that she didn't even know that she had. So for her, it was strategy, idea generation, and relationship building. And it massively propelled her forward. She suddenly found it was so easy for her to network, get mentors, work with a boss because she was good with people, but she didn't even know that. And when it says don't overextend your strengths, this is around the fact that she kept saying, I really like learning, but in actual fact, she was hiding behind that. Whenever she basically didn't want to do something, she just goes, oh, I'm learning from so-and-so, I'm learning from so-and-so. No, I called her out on it and I said, no, you need to think about when you're overusing it and using it as an excuse. How do others perceive you and your strengths? She didn't even know. And now people are sitting there going, she's so brilliant, so strategic. We've never met someone like that. It was transformational for her, but only because she decided to own her future. What about the authentic you? Is your purpose, your mission, your values, your behaviors aligned? And for all of those cases, none of them felt that they were aligned. With the guy I told you about, who basically was doing sales and he wanted to do research, they weren't aligned. He was doing things that made him so tired when he just really wanted to be all geeky and doing his research. And with the case study, for example, build valuable relationships internally and externally within your organization, because you never know who you're going to learn from. Even if there are people that you don't think strategically may or may not help you, think, okay, be curious about it. What can I learn from this person? This person's great at networking. Maybe I'll just learn that from them. In every other way, not really. Or I'll just observe their behavior. What can I relate to? What can't I? Learn and connect with people and things that you really, really care about, because that's how you grow and you learn. And slowly you will start seeing that actually you have possibilities too. But all of these things, it takes active work. And this is around having a growth mindset. You've got to keep learning and keep applying that knowledge. Even if it takes 5 minutes of your day to observe someone's behavior. What do I like about somebody in that meeting room? The way they have presence in a meeting. or the way they communicate with people, the way they negotiate. These are all these things you think about it and go, what areas do I need to develop? Who can I learn from? You see, these things don't cost you any money. It's just observing people. And just go, okay, I've observed now that person negotiates really, really well in meetings, or is very persuasive. You keep observing them, and then you take it into your next meeting or your next sort of one-on-one when you're having lunch with a friend or whatever, and practice it. These are little subtle ways for you to keep learning and nurturing your career. But don't do it in a crazy way. Be strategic. What do I need to have my career go in this direction or in that direction? And really work out carefully where you want to go so that you can work out how you can get there. So in terms of practical next steps, I've sort of talked about this already, but here we go again. Lay the groundwork for where you want to go. And I always say, set ambitious but practical goals. What does that mean? So don't think too small, because that's not helpful for you. Think, okay, realistically, but broadly, where do I want to go? And from there, strategize and plan ahead. Who do I need to get to know? Who do I need to speak to? Who do I want to learn from? What do I need to do? What skills do I need, whether it's hard skills or soft skills? Most people in this room, in fact, most people anywhere, think that the only skills that they need is hard skills to become a better tech person or a better Python coder person, to, I don't know, to learn better accounting skills, whatever else it is. And those are extremely important. But as we think about you as you grow higher in the ladder with people leadership, that is the skill that most people do not have, even when they've been on leadership training courses. How do you hone your strengths and your skills to move up? Why are you doing it? Work out why. Why is this important to you? Because you will stumble. For that client that I had, it took her 6 months to convince her family she wasn't going crazy. But she persevered because her why was important. She said, I'm fed up of feeling bitter and resentful. And so that was her why. She wanted to be happy again. So that's what propelled her forward. How am I going to do it? Do I have time to do it? Yes, you do. Even 5 minutes in little pieces. Yes, you do. But you need to be strategic about it. And when? So, for example, she said, right, I'm going to set aside this time to really think about things. As I said to you before, when I was working and I was working those stupid hours, I literally was exhausted. I didn't have time to think about my career. So if you care about your career, you need to carve time out and go, right, how do I take a little bit of time out so that I can breathe when I go for a walk or something, and then I can think about my career. Build the skills blocks for the career that you want. How do you upskill? How do you learn about new things? Speak to people and think about, oh, what did they learn? Was it interesting? Was it different? How do I make myself stand out? Sometimes it's getting the same skills, but sometimes it's different skills. Think strategically and be curious about what you can do. The world is your oyster. I keep talking about having a growth mindset. Learn the things you need to learn, unlearn the things that you don't need to know, and get feedback from people, because that's how you grow. And be really adult about it. You may not like that feedback, but take it as a learning experience. Build your confidence. What is holding you back? Is it you? Is it a situation? Who is holding you back? Is it you? Is it your partner? Is it your peers? Is it your boss? Is it your parents? Who is holding you back? How can you practice building your confidence? Like I said, if you don't have much, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, try it. Try asking someone for something that you've never spoken to before. Offer yourself up to do presentations. Go to networking events. Build your confidence that way. Make your presence known. Volunteer for projects, presentations. But don't volunteer for everything, because initially that's what my client did. She just went hell for leather and volunteered for, I don't know, 20 things, which was ridiculous. And she said, I'm so exhausted, Karen. No, be strategic. Maybe it's a little bit unusual. That's okay. But strategic in terms of knowing that you only have X amount of time, which is the one that's going to get me broadly where I want to go? Where am I going to meet the most influential people? Go to meetings, internal and external. Catch up with managers. Get yourself a mentor, whether it's internal or external. Advocate for yourself and or via your mentors and your managers. Have someone having your back and build resilience more than anything else. You need to be able to challenge yourself and know that you will have setbacks, but you're going to get up and do it again, which is why your why and your motivation is so important. And realize that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And here are some of the tools that everyone will tell you about. LinkedIn. Honestly, I can't believe it because I'm going to sound like I really love LinkedIn so much and I work for them. I do not. I don't really care much for it, but guess what? Everybody else cares for LinkedIn. So I have to care about LinkedIn. Get yourself up there, and every time you get a new qualification, update it. Put down stuff on your profile and engage with people. Follow people that you think actually are really, really inspiring. Go to networking events. Half the Sky, other learning networking communities, join them, come to these things. Even if a presenter is rubbish, maybe you think I'm rubbish, it doesn't matter. You will meet other people, you will learn just one nugget that you're going to leave with. Go on courses, some of them are free, some of them are not. It doesn't matter. If you have time, go and learn. Keep learning, volunteer for things. Get coaching, have a mentor. You can be even mentored by juniors or seniors, internal, external, different industries, all sorts of things. You never know who you will meet. I have been introduced to amazing clients and grow my network just from literally random events where someone with whom I think I have nothing in common with, suddenly it's become a really, really great contact. And if you're not sure, have an accountability partner. Make sure that person keeps you on the right track. Catch up once a month. Where have you got to? Where have you got to? Accountability partners. And advocate for each other. But you need to have focus and you need to be really, really determined. You shouldn't let things just happen to you. And remember to always choose courage over comfort. I've said this before. Get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. Have I done anything recently that scares me? Have I tried something recently and failed? Do I step out of my comfort zone? Because if you do not choose courage over comfort, you will end up being the case study that I introduced you with that client, where she was just not happy with her life. She felt like she wasn't in control of her life. And she was playing it too safe, which sounds really, really nice and very easy. But in fact, nobody was happy. She wasn't, and neither was her family, and neither were her colleagues, because she spent her whole time fighting, being sarcastic and snide. Choose courage over comfort every time, because that's how you grow, that's how you learn, and that's how you capture your career. Yes, I've given you some really, really practical tips, but the work starts with you as an individual. So on that note, I am now done and we're going to go to Q&A.
So the first question I got was, do you have any recommendations for self-assessment tools?
Sure. I mean, it also depends on what kind of self-assessment that you have. So, for example, I talked a lot about strengths. There are a couple of people here today who kind of know that I'm a major proponent of strengths. And there's one that's free called VIA Strengths. Just Google sort of, free strengths assessments. And that will help you work out which one your strengths are. If you want a more formal one, I can help you with one, and I'll also help you with your feedback. That to me, I find really, really special because, like I said, with this lady, it really was transformational. And it's worked out really well for some other people too. What else is there? You can get some personality assessments. Most of them are paid, but you can do some online. And, those are much better for things like self-awareness, because then you start going, gosh, I didn't realize that actually the way I think is very emotions based. Nothing wrong with that. So, but what does that look like when it's good? And what does it look like when you are overwhelmed? And knowing those things about yourself, it might just change how you interact with other people. So those are some of them. But honestly, if anybody has any further questions, either via you, Bianca, or Half the Sky, or, people can just link in with me, and basically you can ask me these questions. It won't cost you anything to send me a LinkedIn question. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you so much, Karen. I'll take note of that via tool. And another question I got was, what is the best way to approach my manager or superior if I want to work jointly on my career goals that were identified and suggested by myself? Interesting one.
So it is an interesting one, and it happens a lot where people kind of feel that they can't approach their boss or whatever because their bosses are a little bit unapproachable. In a normal coaching setting, I would say, well, what would you think would be the right thing to do? But we're not in a coaching session. So I would just turn around and say, actually, just ask. Courage over comfort. Just say, hi, Jane or whatever. I would really, really love a session. When are you free? And choose the right time. Don't choose it when they're sort of, upset or kind of frustrated or under pressure, right? Just choose a time loosely when just go, hey, may I have, half an hour of your time? I would really, really like to talk about my career and sort of how to get there. Done. And when you go into that conversation, just say, hey, kind of what are your thoughts on my career? Here are some of mine, and see how they can align. And, understand that their first reaction may be, who is this person? This person's never been so forward before. But, it's, like I said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Warm them up, get them going, and negotiate. And sometimes you will find if that person is your block forever, think about, do I want to stay in a company that doesn't nurture me? And if it doesn't, then maybe it's time to move. But majority of the time, people are really open-minded to it. They've just never been asked. I work with a lot of leaders, and I turn around and say, what have you done with your staff members, etc.? And they go, nobody's ever asked me about their careers. They just assume I will tell them. And they turn around and say, I wish they would tell me. I have a couple of people who are really unhappy, and I keep saying to them, you're really unhappy. They're like, no, we're fine. Because those people have never thought about it. But my clients have gone, what can I do? I've asked them. They've given me a no answer. What can I do? I ask them again and again, but I can't force them to. So I actually have to say, genuinely, most of my clients have said, I want my staff to tell me, because I would rather help them succeed elsewhere than stay in my team and be really unhappy and unhelpful. That's what most of them have told me.
That's a good one. And I have another interesting one as well. Kind of switching gears a bit. Somebody's asking, I'm in my late 40s and wanting to go back to being an employee after being a business owner for 15 years. Do you have any advice on transitioning back to being an employee?
Well, my question would be, work out why you're making that transition. And you will have the sort of, well, it could be money, or it could be family circumstances or stability or whatever, but just be really, really clear on your why, because you're not sure why you're doing something. If you're just doing it because it's easier, then you're not going to do it with full motivation and enthusiasm. But once you've done that, it's actually just work out, what strengths do I have from having worked for myself, and what do I need to transition? So, and actually talk to lots of people and find out what the difference is between doing it that way. And what I will say truthfully is, I've heard that a lot of people struggle to go back into a system where they have had all this freedom and then suddenly being told what to do. So when I say work out your why, you have to sit there and just go, well, I chose this because I want more financial stability. So what am I giving up? Once you've had those conversations with yourself, then you will have a stronger and more realistic approach to how to go back into the industry. But like I said, network, find out as much as you can, and try and find companies where, for example, the ability to think and have independent thought culturally suits you more than others. So for example, if you're going to work for a company where it's very top down, the boss tells you what to do and you have to say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, then actually that company culture probably won't suit you. But if you do the research and work for a company where they very much value independent thinking and they encourage you to go and do your own thing and they encourage feedback, when you transition, choose companies like that, for example.
Okay.
And good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Karen. Another question I have from Chris. He says, I love the accountability partner idea. So how would you identify the best person for this? Could it be your friend, someone you trust? How can you identify the best person?
It can come from absolutely anywhere. The only thing I would say to you about friends is make sure that whoever you choose, so whether it's a friend or not, is that this someone has your best interest at heart. And quite often I find that, so for example, I mean, I'm fortunate. I have a mother who loves me dearly, but she's biased towards me. So almost anything I do, I mean, I could literally just do something really heinous and my mum would probably be like, darling, that was just lovely, well done you. Now you don't want that person to be your accountability partner, because then they're not really objectively questioning you, they're not objectively pushing you, they're just going, well done, that's great. So yes, you want somebody who is positive, but not to the point where they're blind to you and your blind spots. But I would say, Chris, the equal and opposite of that also would be, don't choose somebody that you know is a bit of a trigger for you. So for example, you might have a best friend whom you absolutely adore, but you know that they're also really picky on certain things. Now, it could be with good reason, but you need to find somebody who is a little bit more objective about you. So whilst I say a friend is a safe person, I wonder sometimes if you need to find somebody you really don't know, or someone that you sort of know, like a, you know, but who can really, really question you and who might come at things from a very different angle. So again, with that growth mindset, who can I learn the most from? And from each other. So have a mutual thing. So within this network group, for example, today, I don't know, Bianca, I mean, I'm just putting this out there. If there are some of you who want this, maybe you can all just go to Bianca, who's happy to have their details shared, and we can accountability partner each other. Meet once a month and have a really clear set, okay, these are my goals. This is what I've achieved this month. Do you have any thoughts on how I can do this better or whatever? So almost like peer mentor, peer coach each other. Maybe, I don't know. But these are networks and communities that are really, really helpful. Use them. You never know what you can learn from each other, but also how they might be able to network and put you in contact with other people. Or if nothing else, you learn from them. Like I said before, with mentoring, you know, it can be junior or senior or just in a totally different industry, but they will approach things in a very different way. But I really believe in accountability partners, because nobody is going to let you drop things if you have an accountability partner.
Yeah, for sure. Hope that helped answer your question, Chris. I have another one from the audience. So it says, I'm unhappy with my job because my manager is somewhat of a dictator and we have absolutely no say. However, I need my salary to pay my loans. So I'm very hesitant in changing jobs. In team meetings, people are usually quiet, but I'm the only one to speak up, and he somewhat isolated me. And if I stay, I'll be safe because I got my salary and my pay. But should I take the risk of leaving, or should I stay safe and just try to make it work where I'm from?
With these situations, I find them really horrible to hear, and I'm really, really sorry that that's kind of what's happened for you. So thank you for asking the question, and thank you for sharing. It is very common, and I'm sure quite a few of you on this will be going, yeah, that's totally true. What I would turn around and say to you is, remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So if there are two, I mean, from a coaching angle, we could have explored this in lots of different ways. So I'm not going to address the how you're going to address your boss thing, because we could be here for hours. But in terms of your career, if you want to stay, I would basically turn around and say to you, how else can you use this time where you do have pay and not a lot else to grow and strategize for your future? So for example, for now, while you're being paid and you're working for someone you don't really, really enjoy, what can you learn? How can you prepare yourself for the next role? Now, it could be internal or it could be external. But the whole point is, if, for example, you need testimonials from this individual, how can you slightly change your behavior with this individual so that actually you might get on their good side? Not necessarily be a fake person, but just sort of, what does your boss need from you to change their opinion of you, for example, right? Because then you might just de-escalate the tension, for example, right? So study this person, or even ask your boss, hey, can I get some feedback? What do I do well? Not just what do I do badly. So if they keep giving you all the negatives, go, thank you very much, I will learn from that. What do you suggest I do differently? And they might go A, B, and C. But then you might also want to turn around and say, how do I, what do you think I should do more of? And then now you've got a list of the things that you do really well and that you need to learn from, and all the things that you need to develop from a sort of not so positive angle. You may not like this person, but whether or not you like this person, they may have a point. So that's the first thing to remember. The second thing is then also sit there and go, strategically, if I were to move, what skills do I need? What do I need to practice? What do I need to make sure I have so that when I apply for a new job, I'm setting myself up for success. So at the end of the day, yes, what you're in is difficult, but while you are being paid, use that opportunity to strategize so that you're preparing yourself for your current work or for an internal promotion or internal shift or moving elsewhere. The great thing is that you are still being paid. Use that opportunity and time to prepare yourself. Like I said, this is not going to happen overnight, but if you treat this with the maturity that's required, you can come away learning a lot more.
I just got one, and it's, how do I go about asking for a pay raise, Karen?
Oh, that's that perennial, very, very difficult one.
Yeah.
I would actually just turn around and say to your boss, please, can I have a conversation about my compensation? And they might turn around and go, no. And you would go, actually, most people will probably say yes. But, it's probably worth warning them that's what you want to talk about, because then they're not like, surprised. Because if you walk into a room and say, can I have a meeting, but you don't tell them why, if they're surprised, that's just not going to work. Before you go into that meeting, I would ask you to prepare the why you think you should get it. Also prepare why you think they might say no, and have arguments for that. Now, again, this is not about getting into an argument. This is about negotiation. This is about understanding what your boss wants and what your boss perceives. And if they turn around and said, it's because you haven't done A, B, and C, or we think you're lacking in these skills, instead of having a fit, sit there. And if you're really, really angry in that meeting, just sit there and go, thanks for that feedback. I need some time to think about this. Instead of just attacking, take a few moments and just go, I need to think about this. And if in that moment, when you are really angry and you're going to have a fight or say something stupid, that. And if you're anywhere close to that, my question to you before you say anything is, am I going to regret this? Okay. And if you are even close to saying yes, just go, thanks very much for your time, Jane. I would like to think about this, and can we have a follow-up meeting? Then go away for 2 days, not thinking about it, calming down the whole shebang, and then strategize with some questions and some further answers. And each time, think about it from the perspective of, okay, they said X, Y, Z. I don't think that's quite right. Here are some of the arguments why I think not. But each time, engage with your boss. I said with that case study, she nurtured relationships with her boss. This was about essentially going, what would you like more from me? What can I develop? And in 6 to 12 months, what are the things I need to do to either get this promotion or get this pay rise? And by working with them, number one, you're saying to your boss that you're mature enough to take feedback. Number two, you're saying to your boss, I'm a really good listener, and that actually I want to work with you to achieve the organizational goals. And number three, you're basically saying you can trust me to step up. All of those things send a really good message to your boss that next year you deserve that pay rise. But if you go in there guns blazing and going, I want this and I want that, and you're being unfair, you're sending a really negative message. But there's nothing wrong with having a conversation, and you never know. Your boss might well say yes because they've never been asked before, or they're like thinking with your good reasoning that they're like, oh, you're a good point. Fair enough, I'll go and ask. But the whole point is you need to have a conversation. Understand, it doesn't stop after one conversation. Good luck. We hope you get that pay rise.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely counts, to think of a strategy for everything and to just go for it, but with caution and prepare everything beforehand. So we have time for one more question. So this one, it really made me think, and I think it will be helpful for everyone and make everyone just sit down and really think about it. And it's, how can I have better luck in my career? Is this even possible? Luck?
Well, thank you, whoever asked this question. I do think in life, call me a little bit sort of superstitious or whatever, I do think luck really, really matters. You can work really, really hard, but if you have bad luck, then whatever. But what I will turn around and say to you is, where do you have influence in your life? I started with that, and I'm going to finish that and turn around and say, you get to decide. You make your own luck. If you sit there like a hermit in your basement, doing nothing, then you can't change your luck. There is an expression in psychology called planned happenstance, which means you plan your good luck. If you put yourself in positions and you set yourself up, so it's about setting yourself up for success. If you go and meet people, at some stage, the odds are that you're going to meet someone interesting. But if you don't go out and set yourself up for success, and you only meet one person who's your horrible boss, then you're going to have a lot of bad luck. So you need to strategize and set yourself up for success. Luck, of course, plays a role in it. But what I would turn around and say is, put yourself in a position where your odds are much better. I love that question, by the way.
Yeah, me too. It really makes you think. I mean, like, even if you can't necessarily control your luck itself, the factors around it, definitely.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. So unfortunately, that's all the time we had left for the Q&A session. To everyone whose questions we answered, we hope that we were able to help clear your doubts, give you more confidence moving forward. And thank you, Karen, as well, for helping us answer those questions and give us more insight. I'm sure that the doubts we had have been cleared, and with the Q&A, we're feeling more confident in ourselves, definitely ready and excited to propel ourselves forward this 2022. So to everyone here today, up on the screen, we have Karen's QR code if you'd like to connect with her. And once again, a big, big thank you to everyone for taking the time out to join us today for such an incredible and thought-provoking session. So don't forget that the diversity employers on our platform are still hiring, and they are committed to empowering women to thrive within their organizations, wherever you may be. They provide flexible working arrangements, equal pay initiatives, return to work policy, and many, many more initiatives. And the jobs are actually listed on our platform, so go check them out. We also have a lot of resources to share with you. If you sign up on our platform, it's completely free. You'll be receiving exclusive event invites like this one, job alerts, thought leadership content, and many more resources to help you in your career. So again, this is completely free. You can also give us a follow on our social media. The QR codes are up on the screen, and we will have more events coming up this February. So we have a panel event with Johnson Controls and also a CV workshop with IBM. So if you want to know more details about this, you can visit our events page on halfaskyAsia.com. And as usual, stay tuned for more details. We're always posting updates on there. So once again, thank you so much to everyone, and a special thank you to Karen, who has been our mentor today. Hope everyone will stay safe and hope to see you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Karen.